Welcome to the MoChill Zone. Tonight, we have a great show for you. First, we have part 2 with Jerry Haleva, Sacramento Lobbyist turned Saddam lookalike. Then, we will play Jack Chandler and the Ice Age Jazztet with their version of Something's Coming from the West Side Story. Jack was our guest on last week's episode, so follow us on Instagram and Facebook for the online release date of that episode. Then, we sat down with Ronnie Caldani of Chapman Real Estate for real estate insight and inspiration. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the MoChill Zone, and this is your boy Mutz.
And Chili.
Turns out that there was this bit part for a movie called Hot Shots. It was a spoof series along the lines of Kentucky Fried Movie and Naked Gun series. And this bit part was intended for a trailer for the movie Hot Shots. Charlie Sheen, Lloyd Bridges, that cast. But when they actually did shot the scene, it was what they call a second location. It didn't deserve to be actually where the people were making the movie. But I realized that the staff, the crew that was there, thought it was a big deal that Saddam had arrived, and that I was actually going to be a pretty big deal for this trailer. So once we shot the scene, which didn't take all that long, I caught a bomb in the Chase Lounge. It was a fake bomb, obviously, and
Awesome.
I'm drinking a foo-foo drink, so I'm declaring that I'm kind of on the effeminate side.
Nice little cocktail umbrella.
Exact, total umbrella. And so so I realized this is bigger than I thought it was, and I asked I probably skipped the part where the guy who found this for me said it only paid $200. And I thought, I actually get the money? So
Awesome.
I asked the assistant director, God knows the director would be the second location, the assistant director, I said, what does this gig pay? Now I called it a gig to make him comfortable I was actually in the business. And he said, $2,000. And my Jewish heritage rose up, and I thought, oh my God, I'm working for 10%. So I called the guy, and the producer, and I said, you don't understand, I'm Jewish. There's never been a Jew who's worked for 10%. He said, no, I'm Jewish too. I'm working for 90%.
What a jerk.
So
That'd be funny though.
So that's a good place to pause and just say, that's how, from the Celebrity Rights Act to the connection with the lookalike world, that I actually landed this bit part. And it was only later that I found out that although, and I bet most of your listeners will not know that trailers are purely advertisements to get people interested in the movie that's coming out. Something like 80% of the time, what you saw in the trailer doesn't actually make it to the movie. It's just a hook. And so my little Catching the Ball in the Chase Lounge act, which followed by the tagline, the mother of all comedies, because this was the middle of the Iraq War.
Mother of all bombs.
So I didn't find out until much later that actually ended up in the movie because of the response to the trailer.
But you never got credit for it. Some other guy named Haleva did, right?
That's correct. My associate at my lobbying firm went with me to the shooting and thought it was funny when she filled out the form for me, to use the name that always arrived in the mail, which was frequently Halera instead of Haleva. Anyway.
And that ended up in the credits.
That was the actual credit, Jerry Halera. And it wasn't because I was hilarious. It was because that's how the typo was.
Wow.
So now I think it's fair to your audience to say, well, how did it go from there to something much bigger? And the answer is about 2 years later, I was at a fundraiser for the California Highway Patrol 1199 Foundation, a very worthy cause for families of people who have paid the ultimate price. And the guest of honor was a celebrity, of course,
Okay.
Lloyd Bridges. Well, Lloyd Bridges was the star along with Charlie Sheen in the first Hot Shots movie. And anybody else would just like stand there and go, yeah, I know who that is. But Jerry Haleva, instead, being a bit of an egomaniac myself, went over to Lloyd Bridges and said made the outrageous statement, Mr. Bridges, you don't know me, but we co-starred in a picture together.
Wow.
Now, when you're in a movie,
Nice.
the only thing worse than being an extra would be somebody who was in for 10 seconds and also did not speak. That was me.
Yeah.
And Lloyd Bridges at the time looked at me like, what an idiot. And then quickly said, wait a minute, you were Saddam. You have a big part in the sequel.
Wow.
And showing how well I knew show this, I go, there's a sequel?
Nice.
And he said, yes, and you have a huge part. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, was there and did not agree with the huge part comment. But anyway, we found out that there was an actual audition for this Saddam character in the remake, not the remake, but the sequel called Hot Shots Part 2. And so I did get an opportunity to audition. I got the script, and I remember again my girlfriend saying, "You need to practice." You know, practice. I'm either going to get the part because I look like I or not.
Or not.
Anyway, so the day of the audition arrived, and there's about 10 guys all auditioning to be the Saddam character in this movie. None of them looked as much like Saddam Hussein as I did, but all of them didn't have to overcome a lisp, which I did. And I thought, okay, this is going to be tough. When I met with the director, Jim Abrams, and his co-writer, Pat Proft, they said, you said you weren't an actor. You read it as well as anybody who tried out. I said, I'm in politics. I'm a bullshitter. It's the same deal. And he goes, you're right. And I ended up getting the part.
And the lisp turned out to be an asset.
I think it did, given how they characterized Saddam Hussein. I think it was a big asset because the character is actually supposed to be a cross-dressing, very effeminate Saddam Hussein.
Yeah, and South Park took that and did their own effeminates, and I'll put that on my word.
Ah, well, I did, until this very minute, I didn't know that Seth MacFarlane was smart enough.
Oh, no, Trey and Matt, not Seth.
Yeah, Seth is a
Anyway, so now I'm notified by the casting director that they have offered you the part, and they're offering you $5,000 a week
wow.
with a 4-week guarantee. This could have easily been a lottery win, and my reaction to it should have been exactly like that. Drop to my knees and thank the good Lord for another blessing. That would have been if I was born with more than half a brain. I was not born that way. And so instead, I said to the casting director, when do we negotiate? And she looked at me like I'm seriously, I should have been immediately hospitalized in some mental health program, because we had them back then. Anyway, she said, Jerry, I want you to get this part, but before they give somebody more than $20,000 for this role, they'll use a regular actor, pay him scale, and use prosthetics to make him up. And she said, and I said, yeah, but I got so screwed on the first deal. That was the 2000
Yeah.
which of course they
Wasn't
had
their
nothing
fault.
to do
Yeah.
with. It was completely, it was like talking Ukrainian instead of talking English. Anyway, she said, well, what do you want? Now this is where absolute insanity came in, because I'm asking for something greater than $5,000 a week for 4 weeks, greater than $20,000, when I should be, again, thinking, anyway. I said, I don't know, $7,500 a week? And she said, well, I'll go ask. And she came back, she said, they said yes. and I'm thinking to myself, that was the dumbest gamble you've ever made. Because they could have easily said, get him out of here. Instead, I got the part. And there's a lot of stories that come from the making of the movie, but I'm sure you guys have other questions.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, you want to go ahead and take that for now? Any questions, more questions? I mean, or no?
Sure. Little sippy poo
We're gonna
first.
take a little sip of the wine. And by the way, if we're stumbling, we've all had a little sip of something. I've had a beer, so wine.
Couple
So,
libations.
yes, so just let's be honest. Okay, go ahead.
So in that first movie, how many weeks did you end up shooting?
The first movie.
The second movie.
In the second movie, I ended up rehearsing for 3 weeks and shooting for another 4 or maybe 5. So it was almost 2 months. And since you are familiar with the California legislature, a good question would be, how did you get that much time off? And the answer is that I had a boss who thought it was really cool that this thing that started on the floor of the Senate with that look-alike thing turned into an actual acting role. And he was very, very supportive. And I don't think until today, I think the statute of limitations has expired, so the Rules Committee never found out. They're the people in charge of paying, where I should have been at work and I was in Hollywood. But anyway, I will say this, Michael, that the best experience of doing that movie was, number one, I got to experience the full range of humanity. Lloyd Bridges was a hero of mine because I'm old enough to remember Sea Hunt, and he was just a giant. Besides Sea Hunt in movies, he was totally a legend in show business. And to be able to work with him and have him not put up with me, but actually encourage me and be very supportive, it was truly, he's one of the finest human beings I've ever met in my life.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Turns out that the entitled son of Martin Sheen, who I am very much a fan of, or the brother of Emilio Estevez, who I'm also a fan of, was pretty much to the other side of that spectrum of humanity, because he literally could not tolerate some guy who happened to look like Saddam Hussein suddenly being in his movie and actually getting the part expanded by the writer and director. What was scripted to be a 6-minute role ended up being a 16-minute role.
Wow.
And Mr. Insecure Charlie did not like that one bit.
Well, cocaine and steroids is a doozy of a combination.
Well, the problem is that not only did most people find Charlie obnoxious with his drug use and whatever, the director had a great deal of fun with me and making fun of Charlie. Remember the movie Hot Shot Part 2, the concept is this is Rambo, basically, trying to come rescue Rowan Atkinson from being
Mr. Bean.
Yeah, Mr. Bean, being imprisoned in Iraq. And of course, the President of the United States was Lloyd Bridges, who was playing the part of Joe Biden. Anyway, so now you have this scenario where I'm supposed to be just the guy playing Saddam. This is a Charlie Sheen vehicle. This is Topper Harley. This is, and yet they kept writing more material, and therefore Charlie kept getting more and more insecure without any justification, but he did. Prior to
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah. I did see him in the parking lot snorting the white lines, but I thought a lot of it. Anyway, so Charlie.
He would be in his trailer probably doing that.
in the concept, Charlie being Rambo, prior to every scene that he was in, they would call it prep time. And before the camera would roll, Charlie would go over to an area where there were weights, and he would lift the weight. He would pump the weight for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then they would spray glycerin on his biceps just to give that buff Mr. World kind of...
Oh, look at that vibe.
Exactly. So the director came up with this, and I would have to comply, that prior to my scenes, I would yell prep time. And when I yelled prep time, I would simply stand in front of the microphone and go emphasizing that I had to make sure my list was as fully developed as necessary. Needless to say, this really pissed Charlie off. Anyway, bottom line is the movie was an amazing experience. I almost, during rehearsal, I almost cut off one of Charlie's fingers because we were sword fighting. And as Michael can tell you, I have never been athletically talented. I actually tried out for the Special Olympics and I didn't qualify because I wasn't skillful enough. But anyway, so we're now at the end of the movie. We've been shooting, I need to take 2 lines, 2 experiences. After rehearsal, which like I said was 3 weeks of preparation, Charlie and I are on the set because we're going to shoot our first scene together. Okay. And it is literally just the 2 of us. Like a legislative hearing that begins at 1 o'clock, it might get started at 1:30. But this is the one of the many connections between Hollywood and politics. But anyway, so just 2 of us sitting there. And neither of us are saying anything. And I figured, well, maybe I should say something, try to have a connection. I said, that must have been really something, acting with your dad in Wall Street. And Charlie is looking straight ahead, nothing to look at, certainly not looking at me, and said, yeah, that was pretty cool. And then turned to me to the right and said, remind me why I'm talking to you again. And I thought to myself, why would somebody, we've been rehearsing for 3 weeks, why? It was my first introduction. So now you fast forward to the end of the movie, and we're getting ready to shoot our last scene together. And on the wall of the makeup trailer, we're both being made up at the same time, on the wall makeup trailer is the poster of the movie, which has Charlie as Rambo with the bandana and the what do you call it, the bandolero. Yeah. Anyway, so much to my humiliation, he turned to me and said, so then what, Haleva? Are we changing the poster next?
Wow. Salty.
And I thought, again, all this we've been doing together. And what does a nobody like me say in response to a huge star like Charlie Sheen in that moment? I knew he was leaving after the movie to go to Vienna and film his version of the Three Musketeers with, I think they called it the Brat Pack with Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, that was good.
Anyway, so my response to his comment was, does that mean I'm not going to Vienna with you? and he had to laugh, as did everybody else in the trailer.
You did.
And it definitely broke the tension. But I found out later that the director called me and said, Charlie has said that if you go to the wrap party, the big party after a movie we made, he's not showing. And if you go on the junket, which is what, after a $20 million movie, they actually do press conferences throughout Europe and Asia.
Shopping it, basically.
And you love junkets.
Right. What?
And you love junkets.
I love junkets. I was in politics. But he said that if Charlie said if you show at the wrap party or at the press conference, he's not showing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's fine. I mean, this has been as close to a Make-A-Wish Foundation gift as I'm ever going to have.
Make-A-Wish Foundation.
So
Nice.
his deal, not mine, and
Yeah.
that's the way we ended it.
Nice.
And now, Jack Chandler and the Ice Age Jazztet with their version of Something's Coming from the West Side Story. That was part one of the MoChill Zone with Jerry Haleva and Something's Coming from Jack Chandler. Stay tuned for part two with Ronnie Caldani coming up next.